Yes, my name's Hugh Danford, and I'm an ex-civil aviation inspector. And I blew the whistle on a crash 8 years ago. I'm here today to speak to the historic and ongoing lack of regulatory supervision that has resulted in the death of innocent lives over the past 10 years. Today I want to make sure that everyone on both sides of the House knows who Damien Samuel Hancock was and how he died when they stand up to vote for Bill C-7, which I now understand is a different bill. I met with Damien's mother this month, and I speak with her informed consent and support. On March 19, 1999, a Provincial Airlines Twin Otter crashed into the frozen sea off Davis Inlet, killing 22-year-old Damien Samuel Hancock. What followed was a cover-up that would draw in several government agencies and senior personnel over the following 10 years, making Davis Inlet one of the most important crashes in Canadian history. Not since Transport Canada was found liable in the deaths of 6 people on October 19, 1984, in the Wapiti airline crash, has there been such a blatant miscarriage of justice by the regulator, Transport Canada. This crash was number 5 for the captain. To go back to March 28, 1993, the regional manager of aviation enforcement wrote in the captain's enforcement file after his 4th crash, "Previous sanctions have not changed this individual's method of operating, and I don't think this will either. We will hear from this gentleman again. He was fined $850 and his pilot's license remained valid." TC did hear from him again when he crashed onto the frozen sea 6 years later, killing his co-pilot Damien Samuel Hancock. TC did not investigate the crash as it is mandated to do. Instead, TC closed up the captain's enforcement file on January 4th, 2001, citing no further action, not in the public interest. On July 10, the Transportation Safety Board released Recommendation A0101 as a result of its investigation into the Davis Inlet crash and the death of Damien Hancock. Recommendation 0101 states, the Department of Transport undertake a review of its safety oversight methodology, resources, and practices, particularly as they relate to smaller operators and those who fly in or into remote areas, to ensure that air operators and crews consistently operate within the safety regulations. This was the most important recommendation since the Dryden Commission. On July 17, 2001, Transport Canada's Commercial Business Aviation Branch under Director Merlin Pruce was selected to be the OTI, Office of Technical Interest, the main respondent for TC to the recommendation. Although responsible for satisfying the recommendation, this is the last time that Merlin Pruce's name appears on any document relating to A0101 or Davis Inlet. On September 20, a safety committee review convened by ADM Bill Elliott, now with the RCMP, was convened to formulate a response to recommendation A0101. No minutes were kept of this meeting. Conspicuous by their absence was Merlin Pruce, OTI, and Franz Reinhardt, Director of Regulatory Services, or any representative from their individual departments. At this meeting, it was decided to offer up a failed study called the DMR report as satisfying recommendation A0101. At a cost in excess of $1 million, the much maligned study was designed to justify reducing inspector levels. It had nothing to do with the recommendation A0101. As such, this cabal lied to Transportation Safety Board and thus lied to Parliament. On October 3rd, 2001, after being signed off by Bill Elliott, Gaetan Boucher, Art Laflamme, and Margaret Bloodworth, the bogus response to A0101 was forwarded to David Collinette, Minister of Transport, for signature. It contained explicit reference to the DMR report. On March 31, 2002, the TSB annual report was submitted to Parliament. In the TSB's account of recommendation A0101, the TSB mentioned the DMR report, stating that TC had provided, quote-unquote, satisfactory intent in its response. The information contained in the March 3102 hard copy is significantly different from today's version on the TC website. Somebody rewrote history. At this point, Bill Elliott had moved to be the Director of Intelligence for the Privy Council under Stéphane Dion, where the DMR report landed. It is apparent when looking at the rewritten history of recommendation AO0101 on the website that TSB conspired to alter the TC response to A010, backdating information to October 29, 2001. On October 29, 2002, I completed writing the Hancock Report and filed it with Dr. David Bell, TC's Integrity Office, for the fledgling Public Service Integrity Office, headed up by Dr. Edward Kaiserlink. After being stonewalled by Dr. David Bell for several months, I approached the PSIO Jean-Daniel Belanger to look into my allegations contained in the Hancock Report. On December 10th, Jean-Daniel Belanger, PSIO senior investigator, scripted a response to my allegations regarding the lack of regulatory supervision by TC. Dr. Kaiserlink signed the letter stating that none of my allegations against TC were found to be of merit. In doing so, he quoted policy number 15 as evidence why TC did not investigate the Davis Inlet crash. Although I had apprised Mr. Belanger that I had written the policy letter number 15, I was not up to writing policy at this point in my career, and it was a memo, not a policy. He nonetheless used the document to support Transport Canada. That letter is not in this document. I forgot to include it. On March 14, 2007, I testified before the Standing Committee on Bill C-6 and presented the Hancock Report for the committee's review. I did not receive any questions or comments from any of the members of the Standing Committee. On August 18th, I wrote to Christiane Ouimet of the newly formed Public Service Integrity Office, making her aware of the miscarriage of justice by Transport in the death of Damien Samuel Hancock and of her predecessor, Dr. Kaiserlink's failure to act or protect me as a whistleblower. I received no satisfactory response from her office. Instead, I was questioned and intimidated by one of her investigators. In the final report on Davis Inlet, the TSB found TC to be a root cause of the accidents by its lack of regulatory supervision. This was the last time the TSB has produced such a finding in any air crash in Canada. Previously, the TSB found Transport Canada's lack of regulatory supervision to be a root cause of 25% of air crashes in a tri-national study between the US, Canada, and Mexico, known as the TriNat. The lines are now blurred between the supposedly independent bodies of the TSB and TC. This lack of boundaries between TC and TSB is reminiscent of the disbanded Canadian Aviation Safety Board, CASB, that produced the well-known cover-up into the facts surrounding the Arrow Air crash in Gander. I do not feel that the same individuals, the ones I've named, who contributed to Damien's death, covered up the facts surrounding his death, and lied to Parliament, should be trusted with the future of the safety of the traveling public by introducing the inherently flawed SMS system. The changes proposed only serve to validate the status quo and do nothing to further aviation safety. It is time to have another judicial inquiry into aviation in order to purge the system of unscrupulous behavior by the government of the day and its crown servants. In my supporting documents, I have also included pre-course reading material from the September 11th, 1999 Basic Aviation Enforcement course. A quick review of the BAEC will make it clear that Transport was not practicing what it was preaching. The Government of Canada owes a sincere apology to Damien's family, as well as the growing number of families it continues to fail. It is time for the Government of Canada to regulate as it is mandated to do without political intervention. This inherently flawed SMS will do nothing to further aviation safety, but rather create havoc and ultimately lead to more unnecessary death.